Hello and welcome to Connected episode 253. It's made possible this week by our sponsors ExpressVPN and Bombas. My name is Stephen Hackett. I am back and to restore order to whatever happened last week. And it's an odd episode. So Myke, you get to say hello first.
Oh, hello.
Hi. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad you're feeling better. Glad you're sounding better.
I realized that last week I introduced myself first. That's because you have the episode number wrong. It's episode 254.
So Federico, you get to go second, but really first. The first shall be last, as it is said.
I like how you said you're bringing back order, and you've actually wrought chaos upon the show, is what you've actually done.
This is extremely chaotic for an introduction coming from you.
I quit from the show.
I feel confused. I feel confused and perplexed, Stephen, by what you've done here.
Yeah.
You should maybe go back to vacation or something.
I mean, I won't argue with going back on vacation, but we're here, so we should probably just keep doing the show. Mm-hmm. Can we just move forward, do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I guess.
Over the weekend, I was at the MacStock conference. John Voorhees, we should give a special shout out to, who not only picked me up from the airport in Chicago and took me to the airport to leave several days later, then picked me up again when my flight was canceled, let me spend a night in his house with his family, and then took me back to the airport. John, truly my savior this weekend, and this week of...
Was that a Mac Stories expense? John, are you listening?
It's between you and John.
You need to buy him like a muffin basket or something.
I should get him something. I should have, guys, we just talk about John's cable management.
Yeah.
Hunter's desk. It's
I'm
not
like
good.
that.
He has a problem, right?
He does. And he was in the middle of like...
Does he have a problem anymore?
Well, so he was like setting up new stuff. And so it wasn't in a state that I could do it. But I think I'm going to have to go back. And I'm going to have to go back to Chicago and fix this for him.
I think you liked hanging out at John's house.
I did. I really enjoyed it.
No, I think he secretly enjoyed MacStock more than he was expecting, purely on the fact that you just got to open up a bunch of Macs in an unclean environment.
I'm looking at these pictures of you doing things with Mac computers and your hands, and there's one that it sort of looks like a Renaissance painting. It's like you sitting down handling a Mac Mini and like a bunch of people all around you. I could see this one as a painting.
What
honestly.
is that spiral thing?
What spiral thing?
You know when you like put there's like a spiral grid that you can put over artwork. That's like done
like
for
the
a lot.
golden ratio, like the golden ratio.
Somebody needs to overlay the golden ratio on this and see if it fits, because there's a bunch of things happening. Like David's looking down at you all lovingly, and then there's some dude who's giving like a real weird side eye to somebody else. Like there's just like a bunch of things going on. And I feel like if you put the spiral on this, like I think it would work.
Yeah. I think the Fibonacci sequence also kind of fits in here. Not sure how, but I think in all paintings with the golden ratio and stuff, the Fibonacci sequence comes into play. And so the composition of this picture... I think
that's the thing I'm talking about, the Fibonacci sequence. When you draw like that spiral. Yeah.
Yes. I
think that's what I'm talking about.
Somebody's gonna do it, and if it doesn't work, please alter the spiral so that it fits, because we just want to see it done. Really,
I actually think the golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence are the same thing.
Oh, see, there you go. So I just used two words to mean the same thing. Awesome. Okay.
Because I wanted to say Fibonacci sequence, but it sounded like a math thing, and it is a math thing, and yeah, it's all very confusing to me. But it's a thing that people do.
Anyways, some people, including Rose Orchard, who has a show on the network called Automators, they had some Macs that needed upgrades, and they just brought them to the conference, and people were asking around.
I find this perplexing. I find this whole thing perplexing. Like, you maybe need to help me with this.
Okay.
Why were people bringing their broken Macs to MacStock? Is it like a part of the conference that like you go there and fix the computers?
No, it's not. So the iMac was brought by Father John, who I think he just brought it hoping that someone would be able to put RAM and SSD in it. And because it's a 21-inch iMac and there's no RAM door on it because of stupid reasons, you have to take the logic board out to upgrade the RAM. So in that picture, we're getting the logic board out and stuff. So took it all the way apart. So I think he just brought it hoping someone could do it, and I answered the call like Batman or some sort of doctor on a plane.
Wait. we're not calling John Voorhees Father John now, right?
No.
So who's Father John?
He was the guy at the conference.
Oh, it's another person. Okay, another person.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yes, not John Voorhees.
Okay.
I feel uncomfortable calling John Voorhees Father John.
Just clarifying.
But you see, I find myself perplexed. Where did the suction cups come from to lift the...
He had all the tools and everything. I just did it.
And how did they find you? How did you were you like trawling the tables, hoping to start opening up some computers? Like what? How did you get involved in this?
I was in line for lunch, and they're like, "Does anybody know how to take the glass off an iMac?" Because I think he had planned to do the rest of it himself. He just needed help with the glass, and I was like, "Well, I know how to do that." And then I ended up doing the whole thing. It took an hour and a half, but it all worked. For the record, both of these computers survived. And so the second one was Rose bought a Mac Mini, I think in the United States. So I guess if the European Union is listening, go after Rose. But she had brought RAM.
That's not where I thought it was going.
She bought RAM to upgrade it, and she had seen me do the iMacs rather successfully. And she was going to do the Mac Mini herself, but then said, "Well, you're here. Why don't you do it?" So it was the first time inside a new Mac Mini.
There are so many people watching you.
It became like a little bit of a situation. And then actually Brett Terpstra had a MacBook that needed a battery taken out, and I drew the line there. I was like, I'm done. Sorry, Brett. 2 is my 1 per day for a 2-day conference. Felt like enough. This is not something I'm planning on doing at conferences I go to in the future. So if you see me at, WWDC or release notes, some other conference, this is not my normal MO.
Is it though?
It's not. No, see, this is the thing. It is not a normal thing that you do, but I think it's something you would like to do more.
And also, it is completely within character for you to do this. Literally, nobody is surprised.
No.
Well, it's done. Both machines were successfully upgraded.
Maybe you should be like a traveling repairman. As like, if the podcasting career doesn't work out, you could have like a van and you travel to the United States, maybe even Europe, and you just fix people's computers. Well, like it's sort of like a street food truck, but you fix computers.
I'm not sure how successful that would be as a business, but I do like the idea.
Okay, just keep it in mind.
It's like I could be like the Mac Cowboy.
Sure, you can be that.
Ride around town to town. I have some follow-out, Myke, about Upgrade this week.
Don't be like Myke, because you knew I wasn't going to know this, right? So you should be aiming your ire at Jason.
Jason. So I was going to send this to y'all privately as feedback, but I thought they might not make it in the show, and I thought, what outline do I control where I could say this? And I realized this is the time. So, talking about the rumored 16-inch MacBook Pro, that rumor broke last week. I think that the starting price is going to be $3,000, which is a lot of money for a laptop. Clearly, this would sit above the 15-inch. We've talked about this before. And I saw a couple tweets about this as well, but Jason mentioned that he thought it would be the most expensive starting price for an Apple notebook, and it's not even close. So I went through a little application called Mac Tracker, which has a bunch of this information in it. And I came up with several examples of machines over $3,000. Now, I don't say this just to correct Jason, although part of me will enjoy that. I was supremely shocked at some of these prices. And remember, most of the machines I'm going to list were for sale in the 90s. So this is like $90. I didn't do the conversion to current day, but a lot of Apple notebooks have been really expensive. The really only modern example of a machine over $3,000 was the original 17-inch PowerBook G4. It was $3,300, but it fell below $3,000 after its first revision, and then kind of stayed, $2,500, $2,600, $2,700 most of its life. More expensive than the 15-inch at the time, but still pricey. But if we go to the 90s,
can I
some
ask,
crazy things happen.
These aren't adjusted to today's dollars, are they?
No, these are original prices. So the 17-inch PowerBook came out in 2002, I think, or 2003. And these older PowerBooks are all in the 90s. So these are 90s dollar amounts. So it'd be even higher today if we adjusted for inflation and current day dollars. The PowerBook 540 was $3,160, but if you got the 540C that had a color screen, $4,840, which is a lot of money. The PowerBook 2400C was $3,500. The PowerBook 3400C, so again, color display, If you got the 180 megahertz, it was $4,500. But the all-time most expensive Apple notebook, the PowerBook 3400C, 240 megahertz, $6,500.
That's a lot of dollars.
That is all the dollars.
It's twice the dollars. But wouldn't that one technically not be the starting price, though?
So, I mean, no, but the starting price was still $4,500.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's still ridiculous. The Macintosh Portable, which is like not really a laptop because it had a car battery in it, its starting price was $6,500.
What? That had a car battery?
Macintosh Portable. It had like a lead acid battery in it, like a car.
Okay. That sounds safe.
It weighed 16 pounds.
Nice.
And its starting price was $6,500. And again, to break from the starting price, if you wanted a hard drive in it, $7,300.
Computers used to be expensive, turns out.
Yes. And so the 16 inches, you know, maybe they are going to put this colored logo on it to like make it feel more authentic.
Expensive like the old days.
Yeah. So that's all. I just wanted to share this research because I wanted it in the world.
I can confirm to you, now that we have done this follow-up, I would not have included it in follow-up for upgrade, so I'm pleased that you did it.
I know.
Because
just like you never read my Ask Upgrade questions about G3 laptops. Like you ignore my existence unless I need to adjudicate your...
Well, if they weren't all about just really old stuff all the time, then maybe...
Yeah, but I got a brand to build here, man.
Yeah, you keep building it here, but I ain't doing it for you.
Okay. So anyways, I have no doubt that 6-inch MacBook Pro will be expensive, but it joins the history books of other expensive high-end laptops. Mm-hmm. A reminder and an announcement and a half. This is confusing.
Yeah, that is weird.
We are doing a live show in San Francisco on August 22nd. That we have just a handful of tickets left, so go check out that link. We would love to see you. A whole bunch of Relay FM hosts are going to be there together. And we are going to be putting them through some, I don't want to say challenges, but I'll just say that it's going to be an extravaganza beyond anything that podcasting has ever seen.
I think the final number is 18 hosts.
Yep, I think that's where we are.
We'll be on stage. So settle in, everybody. It's going to be a big one.
Mm-hmm. We're all going to come out in one of those like tiny clown cars from the circus. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just kidding. The week before that, though, is Relay's birthday week. And the episode of that week, which is like August 13th or 14th, somewhere in there, Myke and I will be having our annual Relay QA. So we've done this every year now where we take listener questions and we answer them on the show. One year we did it on a YouTube video. But we're going to put it back in sort of podcast form this year. So if you have a question for me and Myke about podcasting, the company, really anything, you can tweet with the hashtag RelayQA. And I have a little automation Roomba going around and sucking all those up and putting them in a spreadsheet. So
just cleaning up the tweets.
That's right. So tweet with that, and those will go in that episode. And I can't announce this because we have something happening tomorrow, but maybe just keep an eye on the Relay FM Twitter account tomorrow, August 1st.
I have literally no idea what he's talking about, so that'll be fun for everyone.
You do know what I'm talking about.
I do not know what you're doing tomorrow.
Those things we're doing tomorrow.
I don't know what they are. Oh, he's texting me. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that'll be good. It'll be fun. I think you'll like that.
Well, way to really sell it. That's fine.
I don't want to make it sound like we have 17 new shows starring all of your faves.
No, it's not a new show.
No, exactly.
It's not a new show. But we have some fun stuff coming tomorrow, so...
You need your wallet, basically. There you go. That sets expectation, I think. You'll need your wallet.
So that was my announcement. No, that was my reminder and an announcement and a half or whatever I said. Mm-hmm. So that thus endeth follow-up. We have a tiny topic, but it's really a 27-inch topic. The LG Ultrafine 5K. You know, it was for sale forever. Apple took it off the market for a little bit, but now it's back. And there's been a lot of confusion over the last couple of days about what can you use this display. So we're going to get to that. But the new Ultrafine, it's the same 27-inch panel as before. Same sort of clumsy enclosure. It's not the best looking thing in the world. It's not terrible. I have the 4K My wife uses it with her MacBook Air, and like it's not beautiful, but it definitely gets the job done. And of course, the ultrafine, the brightness and volume controls for Mac OS all work with it. So it's pretty well integrated, more so than like a Dell or an HP or some other third-party monitor. So this ultrafine keeps all that the same. This one adds a webcam and a microphone, which the old one did not. I think I told you guys this privately. I don't think I said it on the show. When I was setting up my wife's with her MacBook Air, I thought it was broken. Like I thought it had a webcam in it. I was like trying to like open Photo Booth to like check out the quality. I was like, where is it? And then I actually looked at the bezel and realized there wasn't one. This new one includes it.
I have a question.
And yes.
The Mac Mini,
Uh-huh.
Does it have a T2 chip in it?
It does.
Does that have any kind of tie to that webcam? Because isn't that a thing in like the iMac Pro and stuff?
Well, so the iMac, so T2 Macs with built-in iSights, yes, there's some sort of security layer there. I do not believe that is extended to USB webcam. So I believe if I plugged in like a Logitech camera to my iMac Pro,
I figured that was the case.
It would not gain that protection.
I just wondered, because this monitor is so clearly developed alongside Apple, I wondered if it would benefit from that, but I guess not.
Yeah, I believe that that's just like the internal routing and stuff. That's a good question, though. It's a really good question.
Do you see how much I know about Macintosh computers, that I would even throw that thing out there?
I like that you call them Macintoshes.
Yeah.
One upgrade is that this new 5K display now offers charging over Thunderbolt 3 to 94 watts, which is higher than the current 15-inch MacBook Pro requires. So wink, wink, nudge, nudge, 16-inch MacBook Pro, I suppose. So plenty of power out of this thing for a big 15-inch. You can get into a situation with these USB-C Thunderbolt machines where your charger can't keep up with the power drain.
I have been having this exact problem, and I was just about to go on a little rant here, but here we go anyway.
Oh, please.
I have been trying to do some work from the sofa this week on a MacBook Pro in Logic. I've been needing to do some editing, but couldn't be at the desk. And I have a charger that I use for my iPad, right? Like it's the iPad charger. So I plug it in, and all it will do is just maintain battery level, right? And I find it so frustrating because it's like that now the consumer has to be fully aware of the wattage power of the thing that they're using, which has the exact same connection as all of the other devices. It's so annoying that I have to do this. It's really nice, the idea of having one cable to charge so many things, but then you need to be like, well, is it powerful enough? Like, you're not going to know until you plug it in, and then the battery thing says, oh, not charging. And it's like, oh, God. I'm done now.
No, it's super annoying.
It's like the future of the idea of having the one cable was great until it happened, and then we all needed to think about the wattage of our plugs.
It's a bummer. I mean, some of that was true in like the MagSafe days. You're like 45 and 80 watt stuff, but the way I got around it, when I had a 13-inch MacBook Pro, now I have the 15, so I had to go up to the higher wattage, and I just ended up buying a second, like an 87 watt charger to have at my desk and have one in the bag, so I didn't end up in that situation, because that's super annoying. Anyways, this display can throw plenty of power around. When this was announced, it was kind of misunderstood as being a USB-C display with 5K resolution. So people were like, oh, the iPad Pro can drive it at 5K. The MacBook, the dead 12-inch MacBook could drive it. But that's really not the case. This continues to be a 5K Thunderbolt display. And if you plug in either a USB-C only device, so the iPad Pro, the 12-inch MacBook, or if you adapt from Thunderbolt 2 up to Thunderbolt 3 with an adapter, you are limited to 4K resolution. It's still 60 hertz, but you are limited to 4K resolution. And so this is not a 5K USB-C display. It is a 5K Thunderbolt display with a 4K USB-C fallback mode.
I hate this. I hate this too.
It's very confusing because now we have two cables that look the same with the ports and everything. So Federico, I'm confused. I thought, and I think maybe I'm wrong, I thought Apple talked about 5K output with the iPad Pro.
They did. They said that the iPad Pro supported up to 5K display resolution on external monitors over USB-C, but we still have to actually see a display that does this on the iPad Pro, because I bought the old ultrafine 4K because I knew that it was gonna support 4K over USB-C. I did not buy the older generation 5K because it was Thunderbolt only. So I'm happy to see that Apple released a new version with USB-C, but I'm disappointed by the fact that it's limited to 4K. It's almost as if they promised 5K, but almost like the software doesn't support it. Like, I don't understand why on one hand last October they said this device supports up to 5K resolution, but then there's actually no display that does it. I'm really intrigued to see what happens with the Apple Pro display. What's it called? The XDR?
XDR.
Is it gonna have a USB-C mode for the iPad Pro? Is it gonna support 4K, 5K, or 6K for the iPad Pro? In theory, it should do 5K with some kind of letter boxing, I assume, or pillar boxing rather, because the iPad Pro will not be able to fill the 6K resolution of the whole display.
Yep.
But we still don't even know whether the Pro Display XDR supports the iPad Pro and USB-C mode.
We don't know what it supports at all, right? Like, will it support the MacBook Pro? Like, there hasn't actually been anything official, it seems.
I heard from secondhand source at WWDC.
Oh, here it goes. Teachy tip.
Take this with a very very sizable grain of salt, sort of like a mine of salt.
Like those crystals, like those salt crystals.
Like a very chunky salt crystal.
Salt crystal.
Like a thick salt crystal. But the Pro Display XDR was being tested with support for the iPad Pro and even rotation. Because you can rotate the Pro Display XDR, and mirroring via an iPad Pro would actually support that rotation of the display. So in vertical mode and in portrait mode.
There you go, tipsters. Write that up. Make sure you credit the show. That's all we asked for.
No, really.
Oh, don't do it. Sorry, don't do it.
I'm just going to say that I don't have the same confidence in this as I had for the mouse support, for example. So it was just something that came up in conversation. I would like to see a USB-C compatibility mode on the Pro Display XDR. I'm not going to buy a Pro Display XDR because I don't need all of those features. I'm not a video editor. But it would be nice to have it. I mean, if you have an iPad Pro.
Just drop a cool $7,000 for a display for a $1,200 iPad.
You really don't want to. You really don't want to be in a situation where you buy the Pro Display XDR just as an iPad Pro display. I think, even though
Can you imagine
that flex though?
It's it would be quite flex.
a flex. No. Apple said the iPads didn't bend. That's a different thing.
Oh God. No, I thought they said they bended a little bit, but just within their expected tolerances.
Small flex, but okay.
Small flex, but acceptable. I have a question, Stephen.
Yes.
What is the likelihood that the iMac Pro will be updated this year?
I don't keep up with the Xeon roadmap the way like Marco does and some other people do. My understanding, take this with a Xeon-sized grain of salt, is that
that's a huge grain of salt.
Yeah, and it gets really hot. Be careful. It's
a big hot grain of
hot
salt.
I really like my salt as multi-threaded as possible. I don't know if there's Xeon W chips that are available to update the iMac Pro. I would assume, though, that we would see one, even if it's just sort of like a little bit of a rearrangement. Maybe by the end of the year, there are GPUs they could go to, faster GPUs now. And it may be that the Xeons, again, this is not something I really keep up with closely, the Xeons that are in the Mac Pro may be applicable to the iMac Pro. Don't quote me on that. I'm not positive. But I think at the very least there's room to go up in the GPU. You know, they have lowered the prices on the SSD options, which is really nice. The thing that still boggles my mind about the iMac Pro, we're off topic now, but the base iMac Pro is a better computer than the base Mac Pro, and I hope that if they do update the iMac Pro line, that it continues to be really good value. You know, it is at $5,000. It is a very expensive computer, but for that $5,000 iMac Pro is a lot. It's not as upgradable or expandable, obviously, but just in raw performance, I think a better machine than the base model $6,000 Mac Pro is. Plus, you get a 5K display thrown in doesn't have an LG case around it. So, hopefully this year, to answer your question, but I don't know for sure. I can tell you, I'm coming up on a year and a half of ownership with this because I got it pretty early, and I continue to genuinely enjoy using this computer.
Yeah, I don't want to buy it like now and then it gets updated in March, right? But like my plan is I would like by the end of the year to update to an iMac Pro. I have made the final decision that the Mac Pro is not for me.
Okay.
I think Apple made that decision when they announced it, right? Like that it wasn't for me.
Yeah, the iMac Pro would be a great computer for you. You're already in the iMac life, so you're kind of used to the all-in-one.
Yep, I am.
And it's way faster than your old 5K.
And there's a family member who needs a new iMac. So I was like, "Oh, okay, you keep yours because I will be updating mine." But I want to go iMac Pro, but I don't. I'm kind of just like trying to hold. Basically, my plan is to hold until at least the Mac Pro is released, right? Because that would be in theory when they would release an iMac Pro if there was an update. I would assume.
Yeah, or I think if you make it to the end of the year, I don't know. It's unproven, right? I mean, really, I really hope this is not the case. I'm not suggesting it is the case, but like it is possible the iMac Pro is a one-off.
Yeah, there may never be another one again, but it seems unlikely because of the price gap. But
it does seem unlikely to me as well. So, I don't know. I think it'll get updated at some point, but I don't really know when. So can we get back to 5K and iPad Pro support for a second? Federico, I think you were starting down this road, but when you plug an iPad Pro into a display, a lot of apps just mirror, right?
Yes.
But there are applications, like I think, is MyNode one of them? Or maybe there's a text editor where like you have your working content on the iPad and the external display is like a preview of that content, that sort of thing?
Yes. Some apps can support a second screen API that's been around for several years at this point that allows them to output a secondary interface on an external display. Some games support this feature, for example. Real Racing is one of them, I think. Apps include MyNode and Working Copy. They can provide you with a secondary UI on the external monitor. So for example, in MyNode, you can have your iPad showing you one section of a map and the external display showing you another section of a map. Or in Working Copy, you can have the text editor on the iPad and the preview, like the rich text preview on the display. And when they do, because of that API, the preview, the secondary UI is not limited to mirroring, meaning on my 4K display, for example, when I use MyNode or when I use Working Copy, the UI that I see on the display, on the external display, does not have the pillar boxing because it takes advantage of the full display. Because those developers can say, we can output a 4K version of this interface on an external monitor. Otherwise, when I go back to the home screen or when I'm using any other app or feature on my iPad, I see the black bars at the sides of the UI with the mirroring going on center, at the center of the display. So I'm curious to hear what happens with this 5K ultrafine for apps that support the secondary screen API. Can they say, no, we actually want to output a 5K image on a secondary monitor? And can they actually take advantage of the full resolution of that display? Because if they have an iPad app and the iPad Pro allows them to, is this resolution that Apple put in this document referring to the basic mirroring, or does it include, so even if you are MyNode, for example, can the developers of MyNode say, no, we actually want to support 5K output with our secondary screen API, and you're going to see a 5K image fill up the entire contents of the ultrafine 5K screen? So that would be my question. Like, what happens with if you're an iPad developer and you're using the proper APIs, can you actually support 5K or not? So that I'm curious to hear. So
maybe we'll get some follow-up if one of our listeners picks up this display. David Sparks has been trying to talk me into the two-display lifestyle, but I can't do it. The iMac Pro is enough for me.
It's a big display to have two of them.
Yeah, it's a lot of pixels. All right, we have a couple of more tiny topics, and then we have some shortcuts news, and we have Apple's quarterly results, which were yesterday. We're going to get into those as well. But first, I'm going to tell you about our first sponsor, and that is ExpressVPN. You may think that nobody would want your online data or want to snoop on you while you're browsing, but if you do so without protecting your privacy, you risk just that: ad companies, hackers, people collecting your data. And it happens to normal everyday people, and that's why I recommend ExpressVPN. It runs in the background of your computer or phone or tablet. It encrypts your data and hides your public IP address. Just download the app, click to connect, and you're protected. ExpressVPN is rated the #1 VPN service by TechRadar, and it uses a new cutting-edge technology called Trusted Server to make sure there's no logs of what you're doing online. And it costs less than $7 a month and comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. I've spent many hours in airports over the last couple of weeks, and I have many more hours in airports ahead of me this month. Anytime I'm on that public Wi-Fi, it's sketchy, and I want to use ExpressVPN to make sure that what I'm doing stays between me and my device. And so anytime I'm out and about, you better believe that I have ExpressVPN enabled, again, on my phone, my iPad, or my MacBook Pro. You can protect your online activity today and find out how you can get 3 months for free at expressvpn.com/connected. That's expressvpn.com/connected for 3 months free with a 1-year package. You can take back your online privacy. Go to expressvpn.com/connected. Our thanks to ExpressVPN for their support of this show and Relay FM.
Gentlemen, listeners, I have some huge news.
Okay.
The Galaxy Fold is coming. All you haters who thought it wasn't going to happen, it's happening. This is another update from the world's greatest Apple podcast in which one host cannot stop talking about folding phones made by other companies. Samsung themselves have announced officially that the Galaxy Fold will be shipping in select markets in September. They, in their post, listed a bunch of improvements that they've made to the design. So the previously peelable top layer, do you remember there was the top layer that everyone was pulling off the phone, which was supposed to protect the phone and would in fact destroy the phone if you took it off. They have now done the logical thing and extended this underneath the bezel so it doesn't look like it can be peeled off anymore. They've added additional reinforcements to the hinge to prevent particles from disrupting it, from stuff getting inside. And if stuff does get inside the hinge, like dust or crumbs or whatever, they've put metal layers under the display and reduced the amount of open space in general so stuff won't kind of get jammed. And they've added protection caps at the top and bottom of the hinge to, again, try and prevent things from getting inside. They've made some user interface enhancements, including, this is a quote, it's my favorite thing, "Now with Galaxy Fold, you can review charts while talking on a video call and search information all at once." Sure. Which I just think is brilliant. I just love that they've called that specific thing out. I like that a lot. No word on the price. I saw some speculation that the price may have changed, which would be interesting, right? It could change either way. Either the additional work that they've had to do could push the price up, or because of its kind of doomed fate, they could have maybe brought the price down.
I would hope so.
The idea, September, they're announcing it now. They'll probably have it shipping around the same time that the Note 10 starts shipping, which these things are always in September. So it's going to be an expensive September for me. I'm still buying it. I'm going to buy it.
You're still in it.
I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it. Let me tell you the 2 reasons.
You know that you don't have to, right? We wouldn't hold it against you.
I want to, and I'm going to tell you why I want to. I have 2 reasons why I want to. Reason number 1 is all of the reviews that I've seen of this product say it's kind of bad, but I love it, or I need it back again, right? All of the reviewers that I've seen, there's people that I trust, are there are some serious problems with this product, but I love it for reasons I can't explain. And that is really intriguing to me, because what about this product in general makes people know it's bad, but they really want to use it? And I find that an interesting thought. And the
so
second
it's kind of like
is
smoking, basically. It's a bad thing, but people want to do it?
Sure.
I'm not touching that one. The second part is, who else in our kind of extended podcast universe is going to get one of these? Nobody. So I will at least be able to talk about something originally. I will have a thing. I will know something about it. This is, I think, still remains clearly the future of smartphones. I would like to get the first one, and so then I can start to have my opinions on it, and I can tell all of our connected listeners what I think about the Galaxy Fold, whether they like it or not. So they are my two main reasons why I still want to get this thing. The other one is I am just genuinely really excited about it because I think it looks cool as hell.
It does look cool.
That is your update.
That is true. Okay.
Because I know this is one of those things that when I buy this, whenever I go traveling and we see each other, everyone's going to go, "You're going to bring it," because everyone wants to see it, right? Like if next time, like if I buy this thing and then we're all going to see each other a few months later, you're going to want me to bring it with me.
Yes.
See?
That's true.
Because there is something undeniably cool about it.
Yeah. It's like I always travel with a Newton, but no one has to see it. So.
Exactly. Yeah. That might tell you something about that.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. But yeah, so there you go. September, it seems. I mean, I have like 90% faith that it will ship. Like the store part of it, it's like, I don't know. But Samsung have not said anything official until now. This is their first official thing. So we'll see, but I remain hopeful.
Do you think that it is actually the first of a movement? Like, you still believe that? Or do you think this is a weird side thing that's going to go away like 3D cameras on?
No, I think that this, I mean, my kind of, the thing that I've been saying the whole time, the thing that I believe remains true is like, this is the, like, logically or science fiction-y, which is the way that a lot of technology is decided anyway, right? Like the imaginations that people have are limited to science fiction. This seems like the next logical thing, right? That you would have an adaptable screen, because if that works, right? Like imagine that working out. How amazing is that you could have a phone that could become a tablet, or you could have a big phone that could be half the size and be easier to use in certain circumstances. Like that idea is a good one. It is the only place that smartphones can go from here, because smartphone design, as we currently know it, has effectively reached its end. Because at this point, all it is how much screen, like as much screen as you can fit on the body, right? Like there kind of really isn't anywhere you can go from there. Like we're at the end of this, like the kind of the glass rectangle as it is right now. People will keep doing things, more cameras, different authentication, but the overall design, the hardware design, we've kind of met the end of that. And the next stage of that is like, well, how do we break outside of the current form factor? Well, we could have the screens fold. And the fact that there were like 5 companies all working on this stuff at the same time, I believe it is something that people are trying to move towards, but this is the very beginning of it, right? Like the very beginning. Like there were so many bad touchscreen phones before the iPhone. The iPhone wasn't the first phone for a touchscreen. There were loads of them, but they were bad. They had lots of problems. Mm-hmm. But even then, we knew that, like, this isn't good, but it's clearly the future. And I think that about the Galaxy Fold and all this stuff. Like, this isn't as good as it should be, but it's clearly the future. That's my opinion on this. And it might be that, like, it's doomed because we just can't do it until glass can fold. And if that's the case, then people will keep trying to make foldable glass and we'll see where the future goes. But if the technology can work out, even, like, a very basic level, I see this as being something that all of these companies are going to start pouring more time and effort into.
I hope it works out. I hope they fixed it.
Go on.
If it fails again, it's over. You can't do this twice.
If it fails again, the Galaxy Fold is dead. You know, like Samsung, bless them.
They got to fold it up, you know.
But yeah, there you go. Samsung have no shame with things like this, right? Like, the notes are exploding on airplanes, but they just made a new one. Like, they don't care. But, like, you know, they would, if this doesn't work, they will just, as you say, fold it up, they'll wrap it up, put it away, and they'll just try it again.
We'll talk about the Galaxy Pixel 4.
Oh, and the Google Pixel 4.
Yes, what did I say? Galaxy, yeah. That's Samsung. The Google Pixel 4. Google's doing this wild thing where they're just telling people everything about the phone, and even though it hasn't been announced yet.
Yep.
They have shown the back camera module. Well, first they just confirmed its existence, and then they showed the back camera module. Now they're showing face unlock and this weird gesture thing, which is, speaking of Samsung, very Samsung. Like, this woman waves her hand over the phone, and then the pages advance, whatever she's looking at. Very strange. Google has experimented with this before. I believe they bought a company that was very influential in like early like gestures, and they use IR and other things to like track your hand movement and stuff. The front camera system will include 2 IR cameras, radar, dot projector, flood illuminator, so similar hardware as is in the iPhone 10 and the iPad Pro and everything for Apple's Face ID. And Google says it's going to be more fluid, though. So this is from a Mac Rumors article, that when you reach for the Pixel 4, the face unlock sensors are activated, and the unlock sensor recognizes you, and the phone will open as you pick it up. So I think we've all experienced where you pick your phone up and there's like a pause, and then it opens. This seems to, if it works the way that it's being pitched, that wouldn't be there. You basically just pick up your phone, it sees your face from any angle, and you're good to go. This would be great. And if Google has gotten this working and it's more forgiving than Face ID, that's good for everybody. So I mean, it'll give Apple a benchmark.
Google are also saying it'll work in any orientation as well on the phone.
Which the iPad does, but didn't come to the phone. I would suspect that will come to the iPhone at some point in the future, but
you'd expect so.
It hasn't.
There's also, like, Google have said in a kind of a blog post that accompanied this, it's going to be all on device as well. Yes,
which they have to say, because they do so much server processing. People are have trust issues with Google, which is understandable. This is so interesting to me. Not the face unlock stuff, like this is just going to be the new norm, but the fact that how they're rolling this out is really interesting. Apple and other companies generally. Leaks happen, right? But then Apple gets on stage, or whoever, Samsung gets on stage and says, "This is the new phone. These are all the features." Samsung has done a little bit of this sort of self-leaking with the new Note, which is going to be coming out pretty soon. But this is a new move for Google, and I'm curious what y'all think. I think it's fascinating, and I think it's a way to keep this phone in the conversation longer. Because look, the fall is going to be flooded with iPhone news, Pixel news, Galaxy Note news. There'll be a lot of phones. We're right on the edge of phone season again. And the Pixel 4 can be in multiple news cycles now. And Google doesn't sell a lot of these things. I think if they want this to be successful, they just need to try new things to get people's attention. I think this is a pretty good way to try doing that.
Yeah, I think that there's always been an old argument of like, oh, you can never talk about, was it Moore's Law, right? Like, is it Moore's Law? The way you can't talk about a product beforehand.
No, that is, Moore's Law is like things get faster
over time, yeah.
That is the Osborne effect.
The Osborne effect, that's it. The Osborne Computer Company, right?
That's right.
The idea of like, oh, you can't talk about a product when you, like, it's going to replace another product because it means that you won't sell any more of the current one. Who at this point doesn't know there's going to be a new iPhone every September? Who wants an iPhone? Who doesn't know this, right? Like, the idea...
And even in iPhone sales, you see every year, this quarter they just ended is always down before they sell new ones.
Because everybody knows, like, the only people getting them are people getting them on deals or people that just don't care, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, if you care about the new iPhone, you're not going to buy an iPhone in August, right? Like, it's just not a thing that you would do. So there is an interesting argument to be made for, like, well, why not do this? You're ahead of the leaks. You're, like, the first time anyone's seen that the Google Pixel 4 is going to have Face Unlock is by a flashy promotional video that Google made. Mm-hmm. So you are now running the PR on it again because there's no leak to be made now. You made your little teaser. It's an interesting, like, way of doing it, and I don't think that the argument of, like, I know you said this, but I don't believe you're making an argument like, oh, they sell none of them anyway, so they can afford to do this. I don't think that really holds true anymore, because we all know that there's a new phone. There's going to be a new Galaxy in March or April. There's going to be a new Note in October. There's going to be a new iPhone in September. Everybody knew there was going to be a Pixel 4 by the end of the year, like in September or October. Like, everyone knows it if you're paying attention. If you're not paying attention, you don't care. But anyway, I think that this is an interesting way of doing it. They're getting ahead of leaks. Nobody else is really trying it. Google is in the position where they can try things that are against the established norms because they're operating at such a weakness, right? Like, against their competition. Like, they sell so many fewer phones than everybody else that they can maybe play around with what is expected to be the norm. I think that the gesture thing is stupid. I really want to see why anyone thinks that that's a good idea. I'm intrigued to see how they try and pitch that. Like, why is it better to wave your hand in front of your phone and touch it?
Well, and Samsung has tried that sort of thing in the past, and it's flopped.
Well, I mean, my expectation of that is that the technology wasn't good. Like, LG tried to do this once, more recently as well. Like, but maybe with all of these different sensors that these phones have in them now, like, it might work flawlessly. But, like, what's the point? Right?
Yeah,
like,
even if it does work, is anyone care. Like,
why do you need it? That's why I really want to see what the reasoning is.
we've all been in that situation, like we're cooking or we've washed our hands are wet. We need to touch our phone, it doesn't work, or we get water on our phone. That's once a week or something, right? That's not a reason to build a feature. So I'm very curious, to your point, how they sell it.
And also, I just think that technology is better used in a different device than than a phone, right? Like, it is better used.
It makes more sense for a computer.
A computer, a tablet, or something like an Echo Show, right? Where it's like it's looking at you anyway, right? Like, I think it makes more sense there. Like, even in the ad, the phone is like floating in midair. It's like, yeah, if the phone was floating in midair in front of my face, I might want to do this. But I'm holding it, right? So, like, I don't think it works the same way. But I am really intrigued by Google's claims about their face unlocking, because this feels like something that the leader in face recognition would probably be pretty good at, right? Like, and I know that a lot of stuff is done on servers for them, but they must have learned by now how to turn a lot of this stuff into code that can live on a device, like algorithms that they can build.
Yeah.
So I'm super intrigued to see just how good it's going to be on the Pixel 4, because I bet it's really good. Like, I would expect that the reason that they can do the any orientation thing on the phone, and I don't know why. I don't know what the difference is. Apple's never said why the iPad can do it, but the iPhone can't. But like, I would expect the reason that Google's able to do it is because they're just good at the algorithms needed. Like, this is just the thing that they can do, so it's just going to work for them.
This is the same company that runs a photo service that can recognize a child, through the various stages of their lives until that person is like 40. It's in Google Photos you can do that, and it's remarkable, really. I cannot use it in Italy due to European Union regulations, I think. But I've seen, I think some of the features of face recognition in Google Photos, and also on Facebook, due to EU laws, we cannot use them, but can be used in the United States. So some of the more advanced face suggestions and I think automatic naming, maybe some of those features cannot, at least until last year, they couldn't be accessed in the EU.
That might be for the best, right? No, fine.
But I've seen examples, on Twitter of people sharing like screenshots of Google Photos, guessing correctly that the child from 20 years ago is a person in their photo album now, and it seems to be working. And it's quite impressive and kind of scary at the same time.
Anything else about phones made by other companies we want to talk about?
TikTok are making a phone.
I saw that. That's going to be an absolute disaster. Do you remember the Facebook phone?
Yeah, wasn't it like a Huawei phone? Was it a Huawei phone?
Yeah. It wasn't. None of these companies seem to make actually make this stuff on their own. But MKBHD just did a video about the Redmi K20 Pro. This is one of the phones that I wanted you to go look at in the Mi store, Federico. And it looks like it's like this crazy good phone for like $400. There's some real great value phones in the Android world now. It's really kind of amazing. So there you go. You wanted something else? There's something else.
This episode of Connected is also brought to you by Bombas. You probably don't think about your socks all that often. I don't, but I'm busy. And we just don't have time to think about that sort of thing. But let me tell you why you should think about your socks, why you should think about Bombas. We've all had socks that don't fit well. They're uncomfortable by the end of the day. Maybe they're too warm. It's summertime and you're wearing low-cut socks, but your feet still sweat. Bombas, they make the most comfortable socks ever. And they're made from super soft natural cotton. And every single pair comes with arch support, a seamless toe, which like that toe seam is super annoying on lesser socks. Bombas does away with that. And a cushioned footbed that's comfy without being too thick, so you stay comfortable. And they have, it seems like, endless colors, patterns, lengths, and styles. So they look great in the gym, at the office, or when you're out on the town. Your feet, they are dreaming of Bombas right now. And for every purchase that you make, Bombas donates a pair of socks to someone in need, which is super cool. Buy your Bombas today at bombas.com/connected and you'll get 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/connected for 20% off your first purchase. Your feet will thank you for it. The URL one more time is bombas.com/connected. Our thanks to Bombas for their support of Connected and all of Relay FM. So we have a new iOS 13 beta. It is developer beta 5, public beta 4. And Federico, there's some stuff going on with shortcuts. What has happened?
Yeah, and this latest beta, Apple has done the surprising move at this stage. I mean, we're basically in August, of disabling a major feature of the new Shortcuts app, which is built into the system. They have disabled the new automation feature that allows you to run shortcuts by using various types of triggers. Those include schedules or location changes or every time you open an app. That feature has been, according to some Apple engineers on Twitter, temporarily disabled, and I think Apple also wrote this in the release notes for this beta. In addition to the automation tab being gone from the Shortcuts app, Apple has also removed, for now, the ability to run shortcuts as part of HomeKit automations. So in the Home app, it used to be that until beta 4, you could create a shortcut using the Shortcuts editor, but inside the Home app. That feature is also being removed for now. They say that it will be back. My understanding is that it will be back in this beta cycle, so it should be in the public release.
So it'll still ship.
It should ship in the public release of 13.0. So not 13.1, not 13.2, but in September. If it comes out in September, I don't even know. It seems to me that it's unusual for Apple to do this in early August, to pull a major feature. This is one of the major features of the new Shortcuts app. And to say that it'll be back, it's been temporarily disabled, it feels kind of late for that. And considering the general state of iOS 13, it's not the most stable beta that we've had so far, folks have had all kinds of issues related to iCloud Drive, for example, and iCloud Sync. And I still get the occasional Springboard crash, for example. Apple is still changing, and we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. New features and new design, like the share sheet, for example. It feels like a different beta cycle.
Yeah, multitasking just flat out doesn't work in a lot of places. Like, you cannot in any way take an app from the home screen and put it into multitasking.
Yep.
Most of the time, apps from Spotlight don't work. I can't drag them into multitasking.
Yep.
There is a lot of just like fundamental stuff still broken in Beta 5.
It really makes you wonder if this is an OS that can have a GM in a month. Like, I struggle to imagine how...
They can... I'm not. When I say they can, I'm not saying it will be fixed. But like they have done stuff like this before, right? Where it's like, well, it shipped and it wasn't good, but they shipped it anyway. Because what are you going to do? They got to ship it.
But they're making the promise that iOS 13 continues down the road of stability of iOS 12. So they're making a big deal out of performance and stability publicly on the website, in the features page on Apple.com. They've set it on stage. So it's not like...
I got the best part of 2 months. It's not impossible to fix.
In any case, I'm really bummed that this feature was removed because I was using it a lot, especially for NFC stickers in the Shortcuts app. I think I've talked about it before. I have a bunch of stickers all over my apartment that are now useless for now because my phone was upgraded to Beta 5 and now those stickers are just...
I thought it was just the creation of them. It's actually also, if you're using any, they also die.
Oh yeah, the whole feature is gone. And also, I was relying on it as part of my new HomeKit automations for sending me notifications and running shortcuts within the Home app. I left one of my testing devices, the 11-inch iPad Pro, on Beta 4. And because it's an iPad, it can also work as a HomeKit hub. And therefore, I've confirmed that if you leave Beta 4 on that device, on any device that you have, those automations will keep working. So my HomeKit automations are working because they're going directly to that iPad Pro running Beta 4. So it's running that code because it's still there. It's still possible. But of course, with my iPad Pro, I cannot use NFC automation, for example, or location changes, because that I go around town with my phone or with my iPad. So at least the HomeKit stuff I can still use personally because I have an iPad on Beta 4, and I'll probably leave Beta 4 installed until the feature is back. But otherwise, it was really surprising to me to see this feature just being disabled. Like in Beta 5, disabled until further notice. That's very surprising to me. I don't recall an instance of this happening before, and that again, personally speaking, has forced me to revise my writing plans for the review. So I'm skipping the shortcuts chapter for now and going directly into the iPad chapter, which was in my outline, in my notes, was after shortcuts, but I don't want to write about shortcuts until the feature is back and I want to see what it's like. I made the same decision for the share sheet, and that paid off quite well because the share sheet is entirely new in Beta 5.
Thankfully.
I think we complained about the share sheet here on the show before, but basically...
And on Adapt as well. You were talking
and
about
on Adapt. Yes. So the changes in Beta 5 don't make it perfect. There's still a few things that I would like to see, but I think it's much, much better than before. Essentially, you now have 3 sections in this. Well, you have the new share sheet as the top rows with the horizontal scrolling icons. One for contacts, the other for share extensions. The bottom section, so the actions, that's now organized in 3 subsections. You have your favorite actions, you have the app-specific actions, and you have everything else. So the app-specific actions would be, for example, in Safari, you have an action called Add Bookmark or Find on Page. Those actions are specific to the Safari browser. The Twitter app, for example, has Copy Link or Open in Safari. Each app tends to have its own, they're called activity items. Each app tends to have its own. So it's good to have a section just for that. I would like to see, however, some kind of text label that says these are Safari actions or these are Twitter actions to sort of make it more clear, but I can live without one. You can pin all kinds of actions, whether they are third-party extensions or shortcuts or app-specific actions, to the very top of the share sheet now. So you can mix and match between them. So, for example, right now in Safari, I have at the very top copy, which copies the link of the current web page. That's a Safari action. I have the 1Password extension, and I have linked post, which is my shortcut that prepares a link post template in my text editor. So you can put all kinds of actions up there for easier access. And finally, at the bottom, you have everything else. That includes all other actions, all other extensions, and all your other shortcuts. It's still kind of weird how you actually manage these actions. There's a strange mismatch of plus buttons and toggles and handles. Like there's lots of ways to enable and disable these actions and rearrange them. Sometimes you tap on a plus button and it adds it to the top. Sometimes you tap on the plus button and it does something else, but then you can also enable and disable with the switch. The UI to manage your actions is kind of confusing for now. But really my main problem that I think I also brought up the last time is the cognitive load required to visually scan through all of these actions. And my problem is the fact that the text label is on the left side and the icon for each action is all the way to the right. So my eyes have to scan an entire line to see, this is Add Bookmark, and then I have to travel with my eyes to the right side and see the bookmark icon. And that's not just how I think humans work, in the sense of seeing a text label right next to an icon. That is so much easier in terms of being able to scan information and digest information. Imagine if you were traveling, you were driving, and you had a sign on the left side of the road and a text message like like stop or something else. Usually you have the indications related to the sign on the complete opposite end of the other sign. That would be inefficient. So that's why on roads you tend to have, if a sign requires additional text information, they are placed next to each other, or with one directly below the other. And that's what I would do. I would put the icons, I would put the glyphs directly on the left of the text label, because right now it just seems wildly inefficient to have text on one side and icons on the other. And also, I wouldn't mind some color. It's all used to be blue before. I think now the new share sheet is black and white, the bottom section at least. You have black icons, some black text, and a white background. And I mean, sure, but really, especially for my shortcuts have colors in the app, and I would like to see those colors in here. But I guess that Apple...
I love my colorful shortcuts.
I do as well, except that I used to prefer the older colors, which were brighter and funnier and more, vibrant. The new ones are... don't want to talk about them.
They're pretty dull. They're muted, aren't they?
Some people are saying, well, it works better for dark mode. Well, just make them dull for dark mode then. Don't change them. Apple is doing this for dark mode and light mode, so they could do the same for shortcuts. Anyway, overall, thumbs up. They're going in the right direction. The placement of the icons still leaves a lot to be desired, but I think they're getting there. Slowly, but they're getting there.
Can you add emoji to shortcut names, and does that populate in this share sheet?
Oh, well, you can add names. Last time I checked, but do they show up? That's a good real-time follow-up. Let's see, do they show up in the share sheet? So
that's also a good solution too.
Yeah, because you get around the icons being on the wrong side.
So if I add an Apple Watch emoji to this shortcut, my theory is it doesn't show up. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. It does show up, so I'm wrong. So that's nice.
It's a life hack.
It shows up. So you could use really. I was thinking about this. Today, there should be, and I'm filing an official complaint to Jeremy Burge, there should be more colored dot emoji. There aren't enough colored dots. Like, I think there's only like a red dot, maybe a black dot, and like a blue square and an orange square. But like, sometimes I just want to use colors for something that I despise, not necessarily that I love, Like, I don't want to put hearts next to my tax documents. Like, I don't love taxes. Why should I put a heart next to them? I just want a colored indicator. So there should be more colored dots. Either circles or squares will be fine. Triangles will be interesting, but I would prefer a circle, personally. So, Jeremy, get on that, please.
There's only like a white, a black, a red, and a blue in dots.
Like, there should be more rainbow representation in emoji. That being said, again, the share sheet, they're slowly fixing whatever they did with the first version in the first 4 betas. They're getting there. Overall, I'm a big fan of the top section of the share sheet. It works really well. Everything else, we'll see where they land.
The sweet solution is once again a sweet solution, maybe sweeter than it ever was. It's really interesting. I saw this from your co-host, Ryan, who also works at Mac Stories, Federico, that apps that can be, like, I don't know what an app has to do exactly, but to be able to be included into this, but apps that will donate, like, an app icon, websites that would donate, like, an app icon if you save them to the home screen, and, like, go through that whole thing. Stuff like Instagram and Twitter. If you save those now to the home screen and then open them again, they look like apps. It gets rid of all the Safari Chrome, and they show up in like multitasking with the name of the website as if it was an application. So Instagram for iPad, I mean, Instagram's web view is pretty good anyway, but now it feels more like an app than it ever has. I mean, you can't post photos, but you can at least browse really nicely. So
allow me to have a brief Teachy Teaches segment here. So these are called progressive web apps, or PWA. And there was some confusion surrounding Ryan's tweet. That tweet was very successful, but unfortunately, the feature is not new in iOS 13. Apple has been making these improvements, and Ryan actually issued a correction afterwards. But still, let me talk about it so that we all know more about this feature. Apple has been steadily improving progressive web apps since iOS 12.2, I think. And that's those improvements included things like the custom icon that you see in the app switcher, the full screen UI that does not show you a Safari toolbar, state restoration for actually showing you the last screen you used when you open the multitasking switcher, the web share API, which is it's a web API that allows web apps to bring up the system share sheet even though you didn't actually tap the share sheet icon. You have a bunch of CSS improvements. You have support for the keyboard color picker. It's literally a color picker in the Apple system keyboard. So there's a bunch of improvements that Apple brought last year. With iOS 13, I think they are making even more improvements to progressive web apps. If I'm not mistaken, I think you should be able to use them in split view. And I think if you're a developer, you should be able to inspect with the web development tool those web apps. And there's something else that I'm forgetting right now. But really, the main improvements that Ryan mentioned were from last year. That said, Apple is still bringing more enhancements to progressive web apps in 13. And you can test these types of like sort of richer web apps with Twitter, with Instagram, with Pinterest, I think with Uber maybe, or something else. I guess the goal is to sort of replicate the experience of a native app but with a web app. So you just go to the website, to a website, and you add it to your home screen, and it's sort of like having a real app. It's really not like having a real app for, the simple reason that on iOS at least, web technologies do not advance at the same pace as system technologies. So, for example, PWAs are getting split view support now, but split view actually came out in iOS 9, to give an example. So it's a good way to replace or to use something like Instagram that doesn't have a native client on iPad. Now, if you actually save the Safari web app to your home screen, it's sort of like having a real app, but it's not, because it's not built with an actual native SDK. Still, it's a very nice improvement. Just the things that Ryan mentioned came out last year. And if you never tried it before, go to a popular website, try to add it to your home screen, and you will notice that when you launch it, it will not take you to Safari. It'll take you to a full screen view that sort of behaves like a real app.
Even if it is existing, it's something I didn't know anything about, and it's super useful.
Yeah.
So people should know about it.
So you can still be happy about it, even though it's not new.
This could have been one of those tweets where it's like, hey, did you know your iPhone could do this? And then it gets like 75 million retweets.
Yes.
Yeah, could have been one of those. So close, Ryan. Could have been one of those.
Let's talk about quarterly results.
Okay.
Apple made some money, made it in some interesting ways. We got a bunch of links in the show notes.
I like you say like interesting ways, like they did something they shouldn't have done.
Tim Cook's lemonade stand really turned an impressive profit.
It's Warren Buffett. Sort of newspapers.
The company generated $53.8 billion in revenue, up 1% over the year-ago quarter. It was, by just a tiny hair, the third largest quarter in Apple history. Mac revenue was up 11%, iPad up 8%, services up 13%, wearables up 68%.
Can I give you a correction? It was the third, I think the largest third quarter, not the third largest quarter.
Oh, the largest third
Big
quarter.
difference. Huge difference.
Yeah, no one cares about the third quarter.
No, because it's the quiet quarter.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Wearables up 68%. iPhone was down 12%. We'll get to the iPhone. Services, an all-time high of $11.5 billion. Of course, this is before Apple Arcade, Apple TV Plus, any podcast move. These things aren't here yet, right? This is Apple Music, Apple Care.
News
Plus.
They didn't mention news, did they? In the quotes, didn't mention that one.
It's the hundreds of people who were in News Plus.
Accidentally
forgot to turn off their subscription. They said that they've surpassed 420 million paid subscriptions, which that's a number of people that is big. it's unclear to me if what counts as like paid subscriptions. Like, is that just Apple Music, but you can pay for Apple Care monthly? You can also pay for your iPhone monthly. Does that get rolled into this? I think it's all of
Here's
it, right?
the thing. Yeah, because they want this number to look good. That is everything. If you give money to Apple for anything on a recurring basis, or you buy something that lasts for a year or whatever, like Apple Care, right? Because you don't keep paying them for Apple Care, but you do it once. They will count that in this number because they need this number to look as good as it can. It's not a lie, right? But like they will pump it up with everything. Because, I mean, who would really say that Apple Care is a subscription? No one's thinking about Apple Care as a subscription, right? But, like, they are including it in that number.
They also talked about Apple Pay. They are completing nearly 1 billion transactions per month, which is twice the volume of a year ago, apparently. They are now have completed their coverage in the European Union. They're in now 47 markets. And they threw PayPal. This is shade PayPal's way. Based on June quarter performance, Apple Pay is now adding more new users than PayPal, and monthly transaction volume is growing 4 times as fast.
But I don't know why this should be a surprise. PayPal's been around for like 20 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it. It's like, yeah, okay, like you're growing. Congratulations, right? Like it's sure. I mean, I understand why they do this, but like it's the logic of it.
It's weird.
It fails at the logic.
You want to tell us about the iPhone?
48% of revenue. So this is their overall revenue. So if you imagine all the money Apple makes, the iPhone is now less than half. It has not been this way for a very long time. iPhone revenue was down 12% from last year, but it is a significant improvement to the previous decline that they've seen. So like the decline in this quarter wasn't as bad as the decline in the last quarter. So that's, I suppose, a good thing. Tim Cook specifically called out the fact that the in-store trade-in and financing programs have been doing good for Apple, which you'd expect considering how heavily they push it.
Very.
I saw Mark Gurman tweeting that Apple is promoting a buy one, get one free on the iPhone XR at the moment, which is just like a hilarious thing to see in an Apple store. Then they talk about the fact that, you know, it's like its satisfaction's great and all of our markets in all-time highs. The news here is the fact that the iPhone is 48% of the revenue, and there are a couple of different ways to slice this. You can either show like that's not good, right? Like because the Apple is the iPhone company, or you can say, oh, this is interesting. Their other products can hold them up now. So there are arguments to be made for both of those things because they didn't actually have a revenue decline. But what they had was steady revenue, which they also don't want, but there wasn't a revenue decline. And the Mac, the iPad, services, and wearables were all up, therefore showing that even when the iPhone is starting to decline, Apple is able to keep revenue at least steady now based upon the improvements that they're making in other areas. This is not a good news story, but it is not a bad news story.
Well, they just continue to go down the evolution of being a services company. And we're going to talk about wearables. Like, it takes a lot of AirPods to equal the revenue of a single iPhone, but clearly, these other sections of the company are doing really well. So it is strange. I kind of, from like the product perspective, like this news that the iPhone is now less than half of their revenue, because it feels like, okay, maybe they can spread some attention to other things. Like they realize that other things need to pull more weight. So clearly that's services right now, but if there's other hardware in the future that they think could pick up some of the slack, I kind of think that maybe they would.
I think it's just services, because I don't think really, like, if you look at the pure revenue numbers, they can make significant gains in any of those singular categories. I know you're thinking of the Mac to really hold up what they're dropping in iPhone.
No, I'm thinking about future things like AR glasses or
sure,
or whatever's next.
That's wearables, right? Like I know you're not saying, but it's like that goes stuff that goes into the wearables category. This is why they are looking, right? Because I think that what Tim Cook and Luca are probably very aware of is all they're doing right now is chasing the next golden egg, because services, they will run out, right? Like, you only have so far before you've got all your customers, right? So this is a greatly growing thing for them right now, but you will hit a saturation point there as well. So what they need is a new big product, right? Apple Watch ain't it, right? AirPods ain't it, both successful, but they don't make them enough money. They're not selling enough Apple Watches, and AirPods aren't expensive enough. So there is going to be another thing, you would expect. At least that's probably what Apple are working on. And then they just haven't found it yet. I think they were probably hoping to find it before they got into this position with the iPhone. I think it's been very clear that Apple was taken by surprise with the iPhone 10. And we're in the fallout of that, but I expect that they thought it was going to continue to do gangbusters for them until they were ready with their Apple product, but they're not so much. So they're continuing to push the services narrative, which was already a thing they were working on anyway, but they're at a point, I think, where they've been caught by surprise with their main hardware product not meeting the excitement that they were hoping for, I think.
Let's talk about wearables. So it's sensational quarter is the text label we got for the Bezos graph this time, with growth accelerating to well over 50%. 50% of what or from where? No one knows because we don't have numbers on this stuff. But they said that the June quarter revenue record was set for the Apple Watch this time around. 75% of customers buying the Apple Watch in the June quarter were buying their first Apple Watch.
This statistic is always so crazy to me because I feel like we hear that statistic a lot, like for the Apple Watch and for the iPad, and it's so confusing to me because it's like, how then? Like, like it also seems so strange. Like you'd expect there would be way more people that own them. I think Apple used this statistic in products that don't have a good refresh rate, right? So like, They use this as a way to show when people aren't buying a new Apple Watch every year, right? So people hold on to their Apple Watch for a while. So this statistic is accurate, but sounds good. Where maybe for the iPhone, that number isn't so good because people buy new iPhones. I don't know.
Or, it may be about that. What I think about is just that it is a younger product and people are continuing to be introduced to it for the first time. Like,
right, but they used to say this about the iPad until the iPad started to turn around again. They used to say like, oh, and 60% were new to iPad, right? And it was just like a way to make it sound good. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're not financial analysts. We're just talking.
I am.
Okay. I will say that I feel like, and it's anecdotal, I feel like I see way more Apple Watches than I did maybe even like 6 months ago. Like they seem to be everywhere, and this number would point to that, I guess.
Yeah.
They're also very happy with the AirPods, and they now say that again, like this combining of numbers. This is a quote: "When you tally up the last 4 quarters, our wearables business is now bigger than 60% of the companies in the Fortune 500." Good job, wearables. Federico, you want to tell us about the iPad?
Well, I will admit that I didn't follow earnings much because it's really difficult for me to focus on this stuff when I'm just thinking about the review, and especially because I literally came back from vacation last night. That said, revenue is up 15%, I think, year over year, and this is the 3rd consecutive quarter that the iPad has returned to growth. So that's a good sign. And Apple specifically called out the fact that the new lineup is performing well. So there will be the iPad Mini, and the new iPad Air. And if I could just add my thoughts, it almost feels like whenever, if Apple just pays a little bit of attention to the iPad, and, that includes hardware and that includes software, things actually start to turn out. And I think we're seeing that there's more choice than ever in terms of the kind of iPad that you want to buy. You can buy a 9.7 inch up until 12.9 with the Pro. You also have the Mini and the Air in the middle. I think the strategy seems to be working well, and you can see how from this perspective iPadOS only makes sense in the context of Apple now has a richer and more varied lineup of iPad devices, and now they're going to do the software side as well. So sales are up, the lineup seems to be strong. There's supposedly new iPads coming, whether this year or next year. Apple has been registering a bunch of new models in the, what they call it, the Eurasian database. Mac Rumors or 9to5Mac had a articles about this. So all good news in terms of iPad, and we have iPad OS on the horizon, so that's even better news. Do you want me to talk about the Mac, really?
I won't make you talk about the Mac.
Thank you.
Before we move off the iPad, though, just this made me think, like, how do we think the iPad Air, like not the mini, but like those two middle ones, like how do we think they're doing? Like, do we think the iPad Air is doing well? It's kind of a product I don't think about much. Like, do you guys think it's
I have no.
It's important for Apple to continue that?
I don't have a good sense of whether people are buying the iPad Air or not. My close friends are more interested in the iPad Pro, especially the 11-inch. And for context, our friends, the people that Sylvia and I hang out with, they tend to be dancers like Sylvia, and therefore are interested in the idea of being able to edit music and cut mixes with a portable computer. So we've been talking to at least a couple of them about the iPad Pro. But I haven't been at the Apple Store in forever, really. And we talked about this. I just don't like going to the Apple Store anymore. I'm not sure if things have changed under the new leadership yet, but I haven't been in really several months at this point. So I don't know whether people are actually going to check out the new Air and buying the new Air or not. Judging from Mac Stories readers, there's some of them that we've been getting emails, and of course also on Adapt, we've been getting emails from owners of the new iPad Air, but our audience tends to be skewed toward iPad Pro customers. So if Apple says that it's doing well, taking at face value, I guess it's doing well. I just don't have any personal opinion about it.
I think that these products will always exist for like bulk purchases, education, enterprise, that kind of stuff. And then they're also just different price points for people with different budgets. I expect that, the education market it continues to be pretty important for these two devices anyway. And I bet that holds up quite a bit of the pie.
Well, I think we said this when the iPad Air came out. It taking the slightly bigger form factor and adding the keyboard makes it a lot more attractive to like a regular consumer as well, who may want to do some email and stuff on it.
It's a great product.
So I think the iPad Air was a really smart move, and I hope that it is doing well for them and that people are drawn to it. Let's talk about the Mac before we wrap up. Double-digit revenue growth for the Mac. Apple tipping their hat to the MacBook Air and MacBook Pro. Clearly the MacBook Air, right, there was just pent-up demand for an entry-level notebook that was good, and the MacBook Pro was revved with those new high-end models, which are really expensive. And, of course, they sort of hint with the Mac Pro that there's enormous amount of things to be excited about for the Mac. And, the Mac Mini, the iMac, there's still things to do there. But the MacBook Air, I think, is probably the driver of this. They quote, the $999 MacBook Air for students, and third quarter worth of growth, just like the iPad. So I think like the iPad, the Mac benefits from refresh models being available at a bunch of different price points. It seems so basic, yet Apple didn't do it for so long. And I think hopefully they're getting the picture that, look, we need to keep these things fresh pretty often, because people don't want to buy, like you're talking about your iMac Pro, people don't necessarily want to buy a product that's been on the market for a year or a year and a half. The people are at least sort of aware of that, and I think that if we can learn anything from the last year, is that the iPad and the Mac are going to continue to get refreshed on a pretty regular basis, and I think that's good for everybody. Consumers, clearly, it's good for Apple, so hopefully they continue down that road.
Got to get the revenue from somewhere.
That's right. Got to sell more MacBook Airs because the iPhone is done. That's the lesson. Mm-hmm. If you want to find links to the stuff we talked about this week, you can head over to the website, relay.fm/connected/254. 253 was last week. 254 is this week. You can get in touch with us on that page. There's an email link. You can send feedback and follow up, or you can do it on Twitter. You can find Myke there as IMYKE. Myke is the host of a bunch of shows at Relay FM. So if you love his point of view and his voice, there's plenty of other opportunities to get that. You can follow Federico on Twitter at Viticci, Viticci. He is the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net. And when he's not podcasting, he is in his writing cave working hard on his iOS 13, iPadOS review, which I'm very excited about.
Thank you.
You can find me on Twitter as ISMH. I write over at 512pixels.net. Don't forget, we are live in San Francisco in just a couple of weeks with a lot of our friends. Check out that link. If it is Wednesday, July 31st, when you're listening to this, go check out the Relay FM Twitter account tomorrow. We have some fun stuff being announced tomorrow. Not new shows, but some fun stuff. And I think that's it. So until next time, gentlemen, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
Cheerio.
Adios.